From a spirit of sport and fun and an excuse to lime in Tobago, the Great Race has now become an integral part of our Twin Islands sporting and cultural calendars. The first Great Race ran in 1969, and one of the persons responsible for that initiative is Ken Gordon. This is his story.
Well, the Great Race actually came about many, many moons ago, when we had accompanied a number of boats, yachts actually, to Grenada. In those days, every Easter, usually on a Friday, I think, or the Thursday, boats would leave to go up to Grenada. And a few power boats accompanied them to go to Grenada. My brother and I had a boat and we went up. And while there this Saturday, I remember looking around and seeing hundreds of people who had accompanied these boats, because there were many boats. I don't remember how many, but between the yachts and the speedboats, there were many, many boats. At that time, this was just around the time of the Black Power Revolution, and traffic between Trinidad and Tobago had virtually ground to a halt. And I remember sitting in the boat and saying to myself, my goodness, here are all these hundreds of Trinidadians here enjoying themselves. And there's Tobago with no traffic, nobody going to Tobago. Why should we try to have this race from Trinidad to Tobago? We realized, of course, there were difficulties in doing so because Tobago is not the easiest place in the world to run against. But then I decided, okay, I'll go across to Ralph Gibson, who had a beautiful boat, a boat called Daydream. He's now deceased. And I rowed across to his boat in my dinghy, and I said to him, look, if I wanted to start this race, if I could get the Express to do it, would you be prepared to be a co-sponsor? In those days, he was the managing director and chairman of McInerney. He had not as yet moved into the Alstons group. And he readily acceded that he would do so. Well, he did. And we worked immediately to start putting it in place. And by the next year, we started. And that's how it came into effect. You had classes which allowed virtually anybody who had a boat to enter. And I remember that first year you had something like, 52 or 54 boats participating, because it was new and everybody wanted to get into the act. And many small boats. I remember there was Sagoms had a small, what do you call one of these inflatable things. But anyway, it was an excellent event. And I think we owe a great debt of thanks to Ralph Gibson, because right from that very first event, he set down some guidelines for safety, which were observed for many years after. I don't know what obtains now, but I can only hope that they have built on those rather than introduced new ones, because they were excellent guidelines, and they served us very well. The first objective was to try and generate activity in Tobago, because I saw all this activity which we had taken to Grenada, and there was Tobago without any activity which could well have been diverted to them. And then I also felt that here was an opportunity for an event that had international implications, because speedboats race all over the world. If we could make this into a respected run, then we could attract boats from elsewhere. So if you pin me down to a vision, I suppose I'd have to say that one was to develop tourism in Tobago, and the other was to make it into an international event. You can't talk about the Great Race unless you talk about people like Brian Bowen and Ken Charles. Brian Bowen was not just the builder of a boat, of a design. In fact, his first boat was a boat built for my brother, which was called Batman. And it was an experiment. He was working at the bank at the time. And Brian, when he saw how successful that was, kept working at the design until he got the design right. He left the bank and he went on to this. And he was a perfectionist, I mean, in every sense of the word. And he stayed with the Art Race until his untimely and unfortunate death. Ken Charles, of course, has been a supreme performer. And he deserves every recognition that he has got for his performance. Then, of course, people like Silbon Clark, who stayed with it. I don't remember when he started, but he's certainly been consistent throughout the years. So you have had people who have made tremendous contributions in keeping it alive. And I'm very pleased to see the renewed energy, which I've read about in the newspaper recently. And I certainly hope that before long we shall see, and I might yet see, the event become an international event, because I think it deserves to be.